and welcome to another great session with me, Alfonso Manguba. It's a really wonderful morning, and I hope that you're all well rested, and I hope you're seated comfortably because today we're going to be learning something new and exciting that I'm really also eager to share with you because I was able to use this amazing app and it gave me a lot of amazing results when it came to or when it comes to student learning, increasing student engagement, and also really making sure that our students learn a lot. Sorry about that. Okay, so in this morning, we're going to be learning about using Pear Deck. Pear Deck is an amazing application that I've used in the past. I started using it because my friend, shout out to Mary Manzano, she introduced this app to me during one of her training sessions. And it was amazing because she was using a Google slide presentation that gave all of the participants the ability to share, engage, and interact with the things that she was posting or that she was presenting in her Google slide. And after going through that session, it also made me think about how can I use this inside my classroom. And so I started experimenting and also exploring the add-on in Google Slides, and I was really amazed, and my students were amazed by it as well. And so for the next 10 months, and my students and I, we were using it all of the time. It was a great way to get formative feedback. Another great way to, let's say, get the feel or the temperature of the room, so to speak. And also just another way to like interact and engage with students who are shy or don't really want to participate all the time. But when I started using Google Classroom, when I started using Pear Deck, really was when I had to do an online class. As we all know, March 10 was the last day of classes, and then but the thing is, the school where I was teaching at, I still had to teach for another 3 weeks because we had started a bit late. We didn't follow the usual calendar, and so I started using Pear Deck to be able to interact and engage with my students in an online environment. So one of the things that I really liked about it was because if we're going to do this video conferencing call, it's really hard to get like the thoughts and ideas of each student because they're all speaking at the same time, and our speakers and our computers or laptops can only take so much. And but with Pear Deck added onto my Google slide presentations, I was able to see and read and get the feel of the room from this add-on. So it's really an amazing application, and I'm really happy to share it with you. So what is Pear Deck? Basically, Pear Deck's mission is that it's really to inform everything that we create. So Pear Deck was founded by teachers for teachers, and because of our current circumstances, we have to change the settings in which we're teaching and learning. But of course, with Pear Deck, the mission really remains the same, which is to deliver powerful learning moments to every student every day. So this student could be like anywhere in the world, could be at home, could be working in the morning, evening, or even in the afternoon. And still with Pear Deck, we'll still be able to interact and engage with them in a lot of ways as well. Okay. So let's get started with Pear Deck. Okay. So in this session, we're going to be covering about all of the basics of Pear Deck, including how we're going to install it, how we're going to create those different interactive questions, and also some ideas for making this like used in your asynchronous classes. Or another way is for you to be able to use this during your if you're going to give out modules and the like. Okay, so let's get started. We'll start off with this quick hands-on workshop that I've created. So let me exit this slide first. Just give me a couple of seconds. Okay. All right. So there we have it. So we now have Pear Deck here loaded up. Okay. So to get started with Pear Deck, as you can see from this presentation here, that I'm already in the Google slide that you see. And in our Google slide, we have the toolbar here. And if you'll take a look at it, we have all of the other options available to us. So to get started with Google, with Pear Deck, just click on the add-ons. And in the add-ons, um, you'll see here an option of get add-ons and manage add-ons. Currently, I also have Pear Deck already installed. But let's say you don't have it installed or in your Google Slides, then just click get add-ons. And once you click Get Add-ons, you'll be directed to this menu window, which is the G Suite Marketplace. The first thing that you'll see in the G Suite Marketplace are all of the applications that are now available for you to use in your Google slide. And as you can see from this picture here, the Pear Deck is already here up front. If it isn't available, you can also use the search bar in the G Suite Marketplace, and you can see here that Pear Deck, when if you type up the name, was already suggested. Okay, so by clicking on that or by clicking on the app, you will be directed to the app page. Okay, and in the app page, it will tell you all of the information that you need to know about the application, including some ideas as well. At the same time, you will see a blue bar here. It's covered by this prompt that says install. Clicking on it will install the app and it will ask you to share some information, which is usually your Google information already. And then you just allow the app to access that so that it can be used here. Okay. So once it's installed, it will now be available here in your add-ons page. So by clicking add-ons again, we open it up. We open Pear Deck add-on. I don't know why I clicked that since the Pear Deck add-on is already loaded here. But so once it's clicked, or once you've clicked it, it's now here on your left, or sorry, on your right hand side, and you can see from the Pear Deck add-on button or in the add-on itself that we now have access to some pretty interesting options. Okay, so here we can see that the Pear Deck already has a template library, and as the name suggests, the template library is where you can already find pre-made interactive slides that you can use for Google. Okay, so if I click on that, I'll have here some lesson builders where I have different activities for different parts of my lesson. Learning development. So if I want to like really get students to think critically or do some reflections, then I can use the templates here. Or if I'm looking for ideas in different subjects, then these are also available as well. But do know that because this is an American or an American app, the some of the lesson ideas here are in the context of the United States. So if you're looking for something for Filipino or Araling Panlipunan, you might not be able to find it here as well. But normally, because I already know what I want to teach or what I'm going to do, I'll make use of some of the lesson builders here. So let's take a look at some of those lesson builders. So by clicking the lesson builders, we now have different options for interactive slides. We have the usual text slides where students can type up their answers or their prompts. We have a drawing slide where students can draw or um, make draw or even type up their answers. And even these draggable slides where there will be an icon for the students to drag across the screen to show them what they're feeling or how they're doing right now. So if you want to get like formative feedback on whether the students had a hard time with an assignment just before you start your class, then this is one way for you to get the feel of that room. Okay, so let's go ahead and click. I'll go ahead and click one slide here. Usually, I like the text slide so that I get my students to type up. Okay, so now that I've clicked it, it's slowly working, and then it will be added here onto the side of my Google Slides. So let's give it a few seconds. Okay, there we go. All right. So now that it's loaded, you can see that interactive slide is now in my, um, it's now here on my deck. Okay, so let's take a look. So here we have the interactive slide, and as you can see, the prompt has a text box. Now, even though I got this slide from the templates, it doesn't mean that I cannot change what the prompt is. In fact, I can actually edit it and change the prompt. So instead of saying, "What do you wonder about today's topic?" I could be asking, "What excites you the most today?" All right. So given that I've changed the prompt, I can also change the different elements in this slide. So let's say I don't want this picture of the student. I can simply delete it already and replace it with a different image. I can also change or remove this thought cloud here so that I can, let's say, replace it with a different image also. Okay, so I'll bring back that person here. Okay, now there's just one thing I don't want, or that Pear Deck doesn't want you to change or remove, which is this bar here. This bar here is an image, and in this image, it already contains the interactive element. So if you delete that interactive element, then this slide will just be an ordinary slide. Students won't be able to interact with it at all. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Apart from the templates here, there are some other lesson ideas, or sorry, slide ideas that you can use. So apart from text slides, there are also like multiple choice slides, draggable slides. Here we have a mind map where you can also edit it as well. And then from time to time, there would also be like these instruction slides. So if you want your students to take a brain break or a rest from this, from their schedule, then you can present this stretch break slide. So just for them to stand up, to stretch, to move their heads or neck a little bit so that they don't get tired of looking at the screen. Okay? So now that we have all of these different options, we can create some interactive slides as well. Okay, so let me go scroll down a little bit here. Okay, so how do we do it and how does it look like? So here I have a slide. It's pretty boring, doesn't really show much. And I want this to be an interactive slide. So instead of like creating another slide where students should have like the link, or where there's a link, with Pear Deck, I can actually create, since I've already created this slide ahead of time, I want to make it interactive. So let's go out of the template library. And now let's go to this second option here. Within this presentation, I want to be able to get students to click on this slide when I present it, so that it could bring them to a website that has all of Pablo Neruda's poems. Okay, so let me first copy the link that I added here in um, the speaker's note. Let me copy that. Okay, now, how do we turn this into an interactive slide? So here in the second option, just below the template library, you have other options like text, choice or multiple choice, number, website, draw, and draggable. So I want students to be able to go to that website I just copied. So clicking on this will open up a prompt that you can see here right now. And I will just simply paste the website that I had copied. And if I was able to paste it correctly, I'll be able to see the website already. So I can already scroll down and see the different elements. Okay. And since I'm happy with it, I will click update slide. Okay. So it's now adding that interactive question. Okay. So now that it looks like it's ready, you can see here, students browse this website here. Now, let's say for mathematics, I want my students to learn about estimation, and I want them to answer this prompt. Estimate the number of cookies in this jar. Okay, so we can add, or we can make this boring presentation into an interactive one by clicking the number option. And again, we're given this mini window here. We click update slide, and we can now add on to, or this presentation now has this, is now an interactive presentation. Now, some of you might be wondering, like, where can we put the answer key? Or if I'm going to use a multiple choice slide, where am I going to, can I put like an answer key? Unfortunately, it doesn't have, Pear Deck doesn't yet have that feature. So it's best to always like have, for the next slide, your answer key if you are making use of the multiple choice. So let's take a look at what the multiple choice question slide looks like. Okay. So right now, students can enter a number, but if you feel like students are having a hard time guessing, or you feel that you know your students might not know the answer, so you can give them a multiple choice. So right now, it's enter a number, but by clicking the multiple choice slide, we can override what we had initially made so that we can make an, or we can provide these multiple choice questions. So maybe let's say 12, 20, and 30 cookies. Okay. If you've noticed, there are X's here. These X's don't mean that those are the wrong answers, but it means that you can delete those answers. Okay. So let's update the slide. It's updating a little bit. So now the bar has changed. So a while ago, it was the number bar, but now here at the bottom, you can see that students can choose an option. All right. So here are some other lesson ideas that you can do. And again, you can also change the prompt here. Okay, let's say explain the process of how you got that number. Okay. So students can draw their equations here because it's a students draw anywhere on the slide. Okay. So now let's say we are already happy with our presentation and we are ready to share this with our students. We can go ahead by clicking the start lesson. So when you click the start lesson, this prompt is what will appear. So you have two options, a student-paced activity and an instructor-paced activity. What's the difference between the two? The first one, the instructor-paced activity, is basically you are conducting a face-to-face class, and and you will be presenting a code to the students. The code that the students will see gives them access to this presentation, which is like on a presentation view. And as you move from one slide to the next, the screens on their slides will also move along with you. Whereas in the student based activity, let's say you have created different modules for students to access during their asynchronous learning, or you're really into modules, then with the student based activities, students can move from different parts of the slide so that they can do all of the activities independently. So if you're going to do face-to-face classes and you want like real-time information and feedback, then you can choose the instructor-based activity. Okay. So by clicking that, you'll be sent to this video to this presentation here, and Pear Deck will give you a code here, and it's this code that you give to the students. So you tell them to log in, to go to their device, join pd.com, and then give them the code, which you can see right here, GTYAZ. Now, if you have Google Classroom integrated, there's also an option here for you to integrate this into your Google Classroom. Okay. So once you're ready to present this to your students, you can just click this blue button here. Right now in the picture, it says waiting for students, but as students join, you'll see more and more the total number of students who are in that presentation. Okay. So by clicking this start your class, you'll now be given access to the teacher dashboard. And in the teacher dashboard, you'll have these following options. Students don't get to see this, by the way. this teacher dashboard. What they will see is your current presentation. Okay. Now in the teacher dashboard, you have one, two, and three elements right now. The first one, which is here, whoopsie. Okay. The first one is let's see if I can zoom that. No, I cannot. All right. Okay. So the first option is here. This here at the lower left. Here you can see the current slide you're in. If you have any speakers notes, you can also access it here. And let's say from within this slide, you already want to create a new prompt, or you want to transform this boring slide into an interactive one. You can also click the new prompt, and it will open this menu, which will give you access to like different slides for interactivity. So everything that you saw in the template builder or template library here is also available here as well in the create a new prompt. Okay. Now, as you're moving with your presentation, your students will also be given, will also have the capability to like answer different prompts that you built into your presentation. So right now, here's a sample of what it looks like. So as your students are answering the writing prompt, you will see in real time what they're typing about or what they're typing. And you can also see their name as well. Now, from within this view, you can already start that response. Let's say you want to give feedback already, or you just want to let them know that their response is great. Then you can start it. You can also give feedback here, so you can type up your own feedback as well. All right, and then here you have these three dots standing vertically, so that you can also delete that response as well. Okay. Now, as you can see here from this bar at the bottom in your teacher dashboard, there's now an option to show responses. So as your students are typing up, if they're also in a separate screen, you can have your students look at that separate screen and you can click show responses. So what that does is that it projects this canvas here in order for your students to see what others had already written. Now, if you don't want students to feel pressured, then you don't need to show the responses. Okay. From a computer or a tablet view, this is what it looks like. So students have these different typing access also. They also have like different um, drawing tools available for them. Okay. Now, as a teacher, you can also time the response spent in this slide. So here in the hide response, let's go back a couple of slides. Okay. Nope, sorry. Okay, let's go back here. All right. So here in the response slide, you have your hide response, and then now there's a lock screen. If you click on the lock screen, your students will get this notification. Your teacher has locked responses for this slide. So right now, when you lock a slide, students won't be able to add anything because let's say you want to explain something. Now, if you unlock it, you'll notice that there's also this little arrow here. In this little arrow, if you click on it, you have different time increments. So 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes. By clicking those time increments, your students will see like how much time they have left to answer this particular prompt that you see here. Okay. So if you take a look at it here in this drawing or typing slide, so students draw anywhere in this slide. So they have all of these different color palettes that they can use. Again, this is from a device perspective. So I was using my tablet for this, but it's also available on their cell phones as well. So with that, students are able to like make use of the different tools um, for for answering the prompts. Okay. So now that let's say you're already happy with or you're done with your teacher session, you can just simply click the end button And what happens with the end button is that it will end this session, and students who were not able to, students who, let's say, they memorize this code here, they won't have access to that code anymore the moment you click the end session. And what happens to all of the responses of the students? Now, if your students use their email addresses, sorry, your students will be prompted just before you start your class, to use their Google email or their Microsoft email. Yeah, so your students have to have a Gmail account or a Microsoft account in order for them to use Pear Deck. Pear Deck also gives you the option to do anonymous, or let your students sign in anonymously. However, if they make use of their Gmail or Microsoft accounts, they'll be assigned a name here, so that you'll know that it's them. And now what happens? So after you end the session, there will be a prompt asking you whether you want to publish all of the students' takeaways, or whatever the student responses, or whatever responses your students wrote in this presentation. So by ending the session is closed, the code is no longer active, and anything the students wrote here or answered, they will be given a copy of that sent to their email. And you, as a teacher, will also get to have a copy or a master file of all of their responses. So that's what it looks like in the teacher instructor view. Now, if you want to try out what it looks like or get the feel of the app, here's something that you can visit. So you can all head on over to joinpd.com, and then click on the link, or sorry, type the code QTXUI. Okay. So again, if you want to try out Pear Deck in the student-based view, head on over to joinpd.com and type up that code QTXUI. All right. So this is the end of my session. Of course, if you have like any questions, I'll be available for your questions. So just type it up, and do know that not all of the questions might be answered, but I hope that I can answer as much as possible. So once again, thank you so much for joining me, and I cannot wait to read your questions also.